Well, he's not exactly what you would call a prolific winner in world cycling. It was a Mosquera, but he is a very strong climber. The first mountaintop finish that we had in last year's Volta of España, the battle amongst the big general classification riders was for second place on the stage behind Alessandro Ballan, that was away in a break and actually ended up winning the day. So many people, myself included, expect Contador to get second on the stage and put time into all these other rivals. Well, it wasn't Contador. Contador finished in third place. It was Mosquera that took second and managed to put around about 8 or 10 seconds into Alberto Contador on that occasion into Andorra, which is a clear indication of just how well he climbs. Well, we haven't had quite the battle that I was expecting on this climb. We've just had the one rider from Zacobeo Galicia launch the attack, and so far the other big favourites have just been watching each other. Is that Vasily Kirienka swinging out of the way? His job is done for the day, and a good job it has been. He's done a lot of the work at the front and the important part of the stage for the Case de Panya squad. It's a very small group now that is left at the front, and towards the back it is Samuel Sanchez of the Euskadel Euskadi team, who is showing some signs of being under a little bit of pressure. Mosquera now having caught Julian Sanchez. He goes through, the rider from the Content Polisampo team, and just gets on with the job at hand. He'll be hoping to get a time check on that main peloton, albeit main contenders. It's just 13 seconds. It's not much at all. 46 seconds to the leaders, but if he still gets to the finish line with 13 seconds up his sleeve, he'll get a 20-second time bonification, which will give him 33 seconds in total, and he's starting to claw his way back up towards that top 5. He currently sits in 8th position overall. He's 2 minutes and 24 seconds behind. Number 58, Rodriguez at the back. It looks as if Marino is the rider at the front for the Case de Panya squad, and Case de Panya are taking the tactic of one rider on the front controlling affairs for Alejandro Valverde, and one rider at the back just in case he gets in trouble. 2 kilometres to go. Could they possibly survive? It starts to plateau out just ever so slightly. It's not quite as difficult, the final 2 kilometres of the climb. It sits at, the final 2 kilometres sits at 6.5, 7%. It fluctuates in between those two. So maybe rider Hejadal could survive. It's going to be very much touch and go, as Mosquera is still closing in, but not quite as rapidly as I would have expected. Although 35 seconds or 36 seconds, maybe a little bit more as we count through it. 2 kilometres to go. It's 37 seconds for Mosquera. His teammate David Garcia de Pena won't be doing any of the work at the front. We haven't seen any move from the likes of Ballan or Sanchez, who were threatening to launch an attack on this stage. Cadel Evans appears to be content with just following the wheels. If he got to the individual time trial in Toledo with the general classification status quo as it is today, sitting in second place, just 7 seconds behind Alejandro Valverde, I'm sure that Evans would be very pleased. Robert Gesink needs to try and get himself some time on the climbs. It may not be today, it may not be tomorrow, it might be on Sunday, but the Dutchman will lose time in the individual time trial. I feel very sure about that. He needs to try and take advantage of the climbs. He doesn't want to waste too much energy and just use it as conservatively as possible. Mosquera looks across the shoulder. You'll see that peloton's not too far away. They're just 15 seconds behind. Rider Hejadal is at 27 seconds ahead. Can the 33-year-old Spaniard bridge across, get the stage victory, get the time bonification, and continue to build his lead on the other big favourites for overall honours? He's got plenty of support. You can see the Asturias flag, the blue flag with the yellow cross. That's the region that Mosquera comes from. He comes from up towards the northern part of Spain. Zacobeo Galicia from up that region as well. Robert Gesink now starting to launch an attack. He knows he's running out of opportunities to try and take time. I was just talking about the fact that he needs to take time in the mountains because he's not the most outstanding of the individual time trialists among that group of 6. They're at the top end of the general classification. The gap is opening, but it's not opening very big. It's just a bike length or so to Tom Danielson, but now it looks as if it's starting to snap. Danielson is losing contact. Now Robert Gesink, can he maintain this momentum? It doesn't look as if Cadel Evans has got the legs quite to get over the top and lead the charge from behind. 1 kilometre to go. They're inside the red kite. Rider Hejadal's doing all the work. David Garcia de Pena from Zacobeo Galicia is somewhat using the argument of the fact that he's waiting for his teammate. And he's right to do so. Tactically, it's the right move for the team. But look how rapidly Robert Gesink is closing in. He's on terms with Mosquera. Will Mosquera be able to respond? He'll have been warned by his team director. He swings across to try and get into the slipstream. This is the same move that we saw from Robert Gesink on the first mountaintop finish to the Alto de Velefique. He got the 4th place finish on that stage, in fact the 3rd place finish on that stage for an 8-second time bonification, and he put a little bit of time into his other rivals. He climbed up the general classification. He's doing more of the same today. All of a sudden, Alejandro Valverde and Joaquin Rodriguez are no longer waiting at the back. Robert Gesink has gone from being not so dangerous a few days ago to all of a sudden being very dangerous indeed. Robert Gesink is in 3rd place overall, just 36 seconds behind Alejandro Valverde. And let's remind you that there's a 20-second time bonification on the line. As it stands at the moment, 14 seconds the gap between he and Valverde on the road. 36 seconds overall, it's going to be tied. Tom Danielson's had another good day of climbing. So too has Cadel Evans. He's managed to stay with the big favourites. Ivan Basso appears to have been content to just follow the wheels. Look at the charge here from the Dutchman, Robert Gesink. I wonder whether he's going to get across to Ryder Hagedal and also David Garcia de Pana. There's the finish line in the distance. It's just over on the right. You can see the red banner. This is the battle for the win. Ryder Hagedal second into Murcia. David Garcia was a stage winner last year. He's still just playing the role of waiting on the wheel. Ryder Hagedal cannot afford to wait too much longer. He's trying to force the move of the Spaniard. Robert Gesink has got the carrot that he's trying to take. The Dutchman is starting to run out of legs. It's been a huge attack from Robert Gesink trying to get across. Mosquera is still trying to stay on terms as well. It's a stage victory. It's time bonifications. Here comes David Garcia de Pana. He's been in the breakaway all day. He's just going to survive Ryder Hagedal. Surely not second place once again today. This is the battle for King of the Mountains points first as we look to see Ryder Hagedal coming through. He's back on terms. It's going to be the Canadian. It's going to be a Canadian victory here in the Tour of Spain for the first time. The first Canadian to win a Grand Tour stage since 1998. Ryder Hagedal has survived. Ryder, what an extraordinary performance. Garmin Slipstream have gone back-to-back with stage victories. David Garcia de Pana in second place. Robert Gesink once again in third. Mosquera in 4th place as we see Damiano Cunego lead that group across for 5th place at 16 seconds behind. The all-important time gap is going to be that between the group containing Alejandro Valverde and also Robert Gesink. Well, he made the right move, Robert Gesink, but he just didn't quite have the legs to get across to Ryder Hagedal. He managed to put a little bit of time into his main rivals for the general classification, but he won't be moving up into the Gold Tour. Not just as yet. He started the day 36 seconds behind. He'll get an 8-second time bonification, and he was roughly 16 seconds ahead of Alejandro Valverde. So he's closing in, but he's still got some work to do. Well, here's the crowning moment on the road of the career of Ryder Hagedal, the winner of the stage to the Velefique in Spain, the first Canadian to win a stage of the Volta of España, the first Canadian to win a Grand Tour stage since Steve Bauer on stage 10 of the Tour de France in 1988. Second place on the stage in the Murcia behind Simon Gerrans. He said that he was delighted with that result, but disappointed to finish in second place. Clearly, he has learnt the lessons of that stage. He foxed David Garcia de Pana into making the move early and leading out the sprinter. That gave him an opportunity just to get in the slipstream momentarily and watch the Spaniard spend the energy. One last look across the shoulder to make sure there were no surprises from behind. There wasn't. And the victory begins. Después de 179 kilómetros, nos quitamos el sombrero por la etapa vivida. 5 hours, 34 minutes and 31 seconds. A very difficult racing today for Ryder Hagedal. Wasn't sure whether they were going to survive. In fact, I've got to be honest, I said at the bottom of the climb, I didn't think the breakaway group would survive. They managed to just make it, but only just make it to the line. Ryder Hagedal taking out the stage victory in emphatic fashion in the end ahead of David Garcia. Robert Gesink in third place. It's Isabel Mosquera in fourth position, Damiano Cunego fifth, Alejandro Valverde sixth, Cadel Evans in seventh position, and Ivan Basso in 8th place, with Tom Danielson in 9th, Samuel Sanchez in 10th. So Valverde, Evans, Basso, Danielson, Sanchez all together once again. No time gaps between those two. And Robert Gesink has managed to take 10 seconds on them in terms of the actual gap on the road, plus an 8-second time bonification. So we'll have closed the gap to Alejandro Valverde by 18 seconds. Philip Dagan, the Irishman from the Cervelos, got a good ride from him in 18th position, 1 minute and 26 seconds behind. Here's a look at the general classification to see how it's changed. It hasn't changed in terms of the order, it's just changed with that gap for Robert Gesink. He's now at 18 seconds behind Alejandro Valverde. Evans still at 7 seconds. Tom Danielson tried a couple of times today. He's still at 51 seconds behind. Ivan Basso at 53 seconds behind. Samuel Sanchez 1 minute and 3 seconds. Damiano Cunego riding very well in this year's Volta of España in 7th place. And Uzo Kalamos